From the outside, her life looked like something carefully arranged, balanced, and complete. The kind of life people admired quietly and sometimes envied. She lived in a calm suburban neighborhood where mornings began with sunlight spilling through wide windows and evenings ended with neatly trimmed lawns glowing under soft streetlights. Neighbors waved politely. Friends spoke of her marriage as solid, even enviable. And for the most part, she believed it herself. Asterisk, she was in her early 30s, settled into routines that brought comfort rather than excitement. Her marriage was steady, built on years of shared responsibilities, mutual respect, and a quiet understanding that came from weathering life together. Love, in her world, had become something dependable rather than thrilling. It was present in small gestures, shared meals, familiar jokes, the comfort of sleeping beside someone whose breathing you recognized, even in the dark. Asterisk. She didn't think of herself as unhappy. That would have felt dishonest. But somewhere beneath the surface, beneath the predictability and safety, there were emotions she hadn't examined in a long time. Curiosity, longing, a sense that parts of herself had gone dormant without her noticing. Asterisk, everything began to shift with the arrival of someone new. A younger relative of her husband, visiting from far away, staying with them temporarily while sorting out plans for work and study. It felt harmless, even generous, to open their home. Family was family after all. She helped prepare the guest room, folded fresh towels, and listened as her husband talked about old memories, laughing at stories she'd heard only fragments of before. Asterisk, when the visitor arrived, he brought with him a different energy, youthful, curious, unburdened by the routines that defined her life. He spoke with enthusiasm about possibilities, about places he wanted to see, about ambitions that felt raw and alive. She noticed these things without assigning meaning to them at first. Noticed how his laughter filled the room, how conversations felt lighter when he was around. Asterisk, at first, it was nothing more than polite interaction. Shared meals, casual conversations in the living room, moments where she found herself explaining family habits or local routines. She told herself it was simply hospitality, kindness, the natural effort of making someone feel welcome. Asterisk, but subtle shifts began to occur. Lingering glances that lasted just a second too long. Shared jokes that felt strangely personal. Moments of eye contact that carried an unspoken awareness. None of it was dramatic. None of it felt like a clear betrayal. That, perhaps, was what made it dangerous. Asterisk, she noticed herself paying more attention to her appearance in the mornings. Not consciously, not deliberately, but enough to feel unfamiliar. She brushed it off as coincidence, as imagination. After all, she was married. She was stable. This wasn't who she was. Asterisk, yet emotions don't always announce themselves loudly. Sometimes they creep in quietly, disguising themselves as curiosity or harmless connection. Conversations stretched longer into the evening. Shared laughter echoed in spaces where silence used to live. She felt seen in a way she hadn't realized she missed. Asterisk, her husband noticed nothing unusual. Or perhaps he noticed changes, but didn't suspect their meaning. He trusted her completely. That trust, once a source of comfort, began to feel heavy. It reminded her of what she stood to lose. Even as she continued to walk closer to a line she pretended not to see. Asterisk, the invisible boundary didn't break all at once. It thinned gradually, worn down by moments that felt insignificant on their own. A conversation that became too personal. A shared silence that felt charged. A fleeting touch that lingered in memory longer than it should have. Asterisk, when the boundary was finally crossed. It didn't come with fireworks or declarations. It came with shock, with the sudden realization that what she had allowed to grow quietly had now taken a shape she couldn't deny. In that moment, the world she knew fractured. Not outwardly, not yet, But internally, where consequences first begin, asterisk guilt arrived swiftly, heavy, and suffocating. It followed her into every room, into every interaction with her husband. She looked at him differently now, aware of the truth he didn't know. The house that once felt safe began to feel like a place, filled with echoes of her own choices. Asterisk, she told herself it could be contained. That it was a mistake, isolated and correctable. That if she acted normal, if she focused on her marriage, everything would settle back into place. But secrets have weight, and carrying them changes the way you move through the world. Asterisk tension crept into the household. Conversations felt strained. Her husband sensed distance, but couldn't name its cause. He asked if she was tired, stressed, unwell. She nodded, grateful for explanations that didn't require confession. But each lie deepened the fracture. Asterisk discovery came not through dramatic confrontation, but through intuition. A glance held too long. A shift in energy. A moment that didn't align with the trust that had defined their marriage. When her husband finally asked the question she had feared, there was no room left for denial. Asterisk, the confrontation was quiet but devastating. No shouting. No chaos, just words spoken slowly, carefully, each one landing with painful clarity. The truth, once revealed, felt irreversible. She watched the man she loved process betrayal in real time, his expression changing as understanding settled in. Asterisk, there are moments when you realize you cannot undo what has been done. This was one of them. Asterisk, the aftermath was a landscape of heartbreak. Trust, once broken, didn't shatter loudly. It collapsed inward, leaving emptiness where certainty used to be. Her husband's pain was measured but deep. Disappointment weighed heavier than anger. That, she would later realize, was harder to bear. Asterisk, the visiting relative, left soon after, the house reclaiming its quiet in a way that felt hollow rather than peaceful. She was left to face the consequences of her choices without distraction, without the illusion that it had all been harmless. Asterisk, rebuilding was not immediate. It wasn't guaranteed. Some wounds don't heal simply because time passes. They require honesty, reflection, and a willingness to sit with discomfort rather than escape it. Asterisk, she began to confront questions she had avoided for years. What had she been missing? Why had temptation found space in her life? What truths had she ignored long before this moment? These were not questions with simple answers. They required her to examine parts of herself she had kept hidden even from herself. Asterisk, this story is not about villainy. It's about vulnerability. About how easily human hearts can be pulled off course when unmet needs go unrecognized. About how temptation doesn't always arrive loudly but quietly, in moments that feel safe and familiar. Asterisk, she learned that stability is not immunity. That love, when taken for granted,